News Talk 1450 WOL AM, where information is power.
The views and opinions of the following show do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of News Talk 1450 WOL, Radio 1 Incorporated, or their management.
Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell is sponsored by Equity Resource, a development, construction, and investment firm that is transforming properties throughout the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Our mission is to develop properties at a high level of value, a low risk of investment, while providing impeccable service to our customers. When you're ready to sell, renovate, or invest in a property, choose Equity Resource. Call us today at 202-621-6632 or visit our website, equityresource.net.
Good morning and welcome to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. Now for today's show, here's attorney Ethel Mitchell.
Good morning and welcome. Welcome to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. I'm your host, attorney Ethel Mitchell, and I welcome everyone who's listening live throughout the world on Radio 1, station 1450 AM, over the internet at WOLDCnews.com and lawtalkwithethelmitchell.com. I want to recommend that you get the app 1450. I found it last week, and it really is clear. So anywhere you are in the world, if you've got that 1450 app, you can hear Radio 1. I was listening in Texas, and it was very clear. So I want to recommend that to you. Happy Black History Month. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. We have a great program for you today about love, relationships, online dating, the law, how it affects and impacts all of that, how online dating has made a difference, and just in general about relationships and so forth. We have Dr. Audrey Chapman and attorney Michelle C. Thomas to discuss the twists and turns of commitment and relationships in the age of online dating. Once I introduce them and we get started, know that you're welcome to call in with questions or comments at 1-800-450-7876, 1-800-450-7876. You're listening to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. I do wills, trust, and estate planning, as you know, so if anybody needs a will, a trust, or assistance administering an estate, you can call me at 240-638-2828, 240-638-2828. So let's get started. Law is powerful, as you always hear me say. It can help you or it can hurt you. It impacts everything that you do. What you don't know can really hurt you, and what you do know can empower you. And Michelle is here to tell us about that part, especially because she's had several programs with us where she tells us about how being prepared, knowing what the law is, especially when it comes to relationships, really makes a huge difference in the outcome of any kind of legal situation, particularly when it comes to relationships that you might have. Each week, this program, Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell, aims to empower you by bringing you professionals who know the law and other areas of expertise to enlighten you. All of our programs are being archived on lawtalkwithethelmitchell.com. It is slowly coming up, so you can go there, and more you'll see more and more of the older programs, and you can click on and get the audio. We're still having some difficulties, but we're doing our best to get everything posted. Would you believe we've done 2 years already? That's hard to believe. Yeah, Michelle's shaking her head. She was my first guest. It's been 2 years already. Yep. So we want you to be part of the conversation. My executive producer, Stacy Burgess, and my WOL engineer, Darrell Farley, are waiting throughout the program to pass along your comments and questions. Again, you can call us at 1-800-450-7876, 1-800-450-7876. You can tweet us at LawTalkEM, and you can like us on Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell on Facebook. But please remember, you're only listening to information here. No attorney-client relationship is established by anything said on the program. Each person's circumstances are different, and you must seek individual counsel for any situation for which you need advice. My producer gave me some really interesting facts. I'm not going to be able to share all of them because I want to kind of get into the meat of what Audrey and Michelle have to say. But, you know, there's an awful lot of candy being sold this weekend. According to the statistics I have here, there is, in 2014, there was like $14.9 billion in the value of cocoa shipments, and we all know that chocolate is a big deal right now. There's also like 14,000 floral establishments, that's flower shops, and the value of imports for cut flowers from 2014 through October of 2015 was $272 million. That's a lot of plants. That's a lot of flowers. There are tons of jewelry stores that are selling lots of jewelry and diamonds right now. In fact, I think Valentine's is the biggest time for people to propose, I understand. And so this is really the time that people are looking for love, finding love, and establishing it. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what happens with online dating and how is that, you know, making a difference. Many of you know Dr. Audrey Chapman. She has been on the air for years and years. She's an author of many best-selling books. She's developed a tough love approach to helping men and women develop loving, independent relationships, build communication. She's been on Oprah, Donahue, Maury Povich, BET, Tavis Smiley, Good Morning America, NPR, and on and on and on and on. Washington Post, Essence magazines. Audrey, thank you very much for coming back. Welcome to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. Are you there, Audrey?
Here.
Hello?
Hello, I'm here.
Okay, welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming back.
My pleasure to be here.
I really appreciate you coming back. And we have attorney Michelle C. Thomas with us. She's a noted divorce strategist, founder of MC Thomas & Associates, a premier divorce and family law firm serving Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. She focuses on complex divorce litigation, high net worth divorce, contested custody cases for traditional and non-traditional families. She has extensive experience skillfully protecting assets through prenuptial and postnuptial agreements, post-separation planning, and aggressive litigation as necessary. In other words, she will kick your butt if necessary. Michelle, thank you very much for being here with us today as well.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. So let's get started. Dr. Chapman, let's start with you. Why don't you give us an idea of how do you define a relationship? You know, how do you define romance versus the institution of marriage? You know, let's start there if you don't mind.
Well, there are different types of relationships, and that's, I think, where people get very, very confused in the world of online dating, as you pointed out. I've been practicing for now almost 28 years and have a private practice downtown where I'm always advising people on their relationship issues. And they come in either single, and often they come in getting ready to get married, and sometimes they come in married. So if you're single, the categories are people that are just in search of finding Ms. Right and Mr. Right, and you're dating a number of people, and you're doing that deliberately because you really don't know who's going to be a fit for you. And so you may be doing it online. You may be just constantly going to meetups. You know, there are a lot of meetups now that they have all over the place. And you may be using a dating service. Some people actually go to a dating service where they pay big cash, and you get matched with about 8 to 10 people until you feel like you've met your person. Then you've got people that kind of do their own thing. You know, they tell friends to hook them up with other people, and they go to parties, and they go to happy hour, and they go to concerts and stuff like that. And there is a phase that people go through, developmental phase, where you're really not ready to settle down with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got a second group of people who are a little bit older. Generally, they're more in their 30s, 35, something like that, where particularly the women are beginning to panic about not being married, not having children, and they work very hard on in the search. They probably are doing online, they're doing meetups, and they're going out sometimes 3-4 times a night just to expose
a night?
themselves. Yeah, after work, just to expose themselves and kind of be out there. The guys don't quite work on it in the same way, but they do, they're on a lot of online programs that are out there and whatever. And they may have what we call serial dates. So in other words, they might be with someone for 3 to 6 months, and then that doesn't work out, and then they go to the next person.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have people who have commitment phobia. So I spent a lot of time talking to people and teaching them about attachment issues because it's at the foundation of everything. Some people are ready to make that attachment, and some people don't know what attachment is. And some people have never had the basic attachment, which is good attachment with parents, the initial people that you really have to know how to bond with in order to make bond later on in life. And so a lot of times those people are lost when it comes to trying to do that. So they fumble and fall, and they don't do it very well.
Okay.
Or they've been hurt a lot. Disappointed and hurt and rejected in relationships. So they put up a buffer by not allowing themselves to get too attached to anybody. So they have multiple relationships. That's why my first book was called Man Sharing, Dilemma or Choice. And it was about people who have multiple relationships because they're afraid to make any kind of attachment with anybody. Okay. And then you have married people who... who are supposed to be legally committed to another person, but their marriages aren't based on good connections. Again, they don't know what love is, and they don't know how to make it. They spent more of their money on the marriage and the wedding and the planning of it than they did on the foundation of developing a good, solid, intimate relationship with the other person.
Okay, so we've got... That's a very good list of categories that we can kind of work with. We've got to take a break, and when we come back, we'll hear from Attorney Thomas as well on the legal side. Okay, we've got to take a break right now, though. Thank you, Audrey. We'll be right back.
1450 WOL, where information is power.
Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell is sponsored by Equity Resource, a development, construction, and investment firm that is transforming properties throughout the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Our mission is to develop properties at a high level of value, a low risk of investment, while providing impeccable service to our customers. When you're ready to sell, renovate, or invest in a property, choose Equity Resource. Call us today at 202-621-6632. To sell, renovate, or invest in a property, choose Equity Resource. Call us today at 202-621-6632 or visit our website, equityresource.net.
There is a moment when you no longer have to look down at your fingers. When everyone else can hear the song in your head, it changes you. There's a moment when you make music. And President's Day weekend at Guitar Center with Washburn acoustic electric guitars for just $99, AKG headphones just $29, or guitar stands and wall hangers just $2 for $12. You can make it happen. Save up to 60% now through Monday at Guitar Center.
On the 2016 Tom Joyner Foundation Fantastic Voyage presented by Ford, join Diana Ross, Charlie Wilson,
how you doing? My name is Charlie.
New Edition, Jasmine Sullivan, Patti LaBelle, Angie Stone, Vivian Green, Confunction, Faith. There will be more entertainment than ever.
Don't believe me, just watch.
with the best in R&B, hip-hop, and inspiration as the Party with a Purpose makes history supporting students at HBCUs. From Glenn Jones and Rakim to Hezekiah Walker and Britt, there will be more entertainment than you can imagine. Go to blackamericaweb.com and call 972-980-SAIL to book your cabin today on the Tom Joyner Foundation Fantastic Voyage presented by Ford.
Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell is sponsored by Equity Resource, a development, construction, and investment firm that is transforming properties throughout the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Our mission is to develop properties at a high level of value, a low risk of investment, while providing impeccable service to our customers. When you're ready to sell, renovate, or invest in a property, choose Equity Resource. Call us today at 202-621-6632 or visit our website, equityresource.net.
News Talk 1450 WOL AM, where information is power.
Welcome back. You're listening to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. I'm your host, Attorney Ethel Mitchell, and we have a really exciting program going on. We have Dr. Audrey Chapman and Attorney Michelle C. Thomas. Dr. Chapman just gave us an excellent description of different people's relationship, quote unquote, categories, you might say, and how they are, how you might describe the different places that they are in their relationships and what they may need. And I'd like to ask Attorney Thomas, how does all of this play out in the law field? How does it end up in your office? What's happening by the time it comes to you?
Sure. Well, I think those were excellent categories that Audrey shared with your audience. And the problems I see arise when the two people do not define a relationship the same way. So you may have one person who's looking for commitment and looking for that Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, and someone who may be looking to simply have a good time. However, when parties or people then try to force the issue and force love, particularly those that are just looking for that Mr. and Mrs. Right at all costs, when they try to force that relationship and then ultimately marry, that's when they will ultimately come to that leads to my office.
And she's a divorce specialist, by the way, if you didn't hear that at the beginning, okay?
Right, exactly. And so I see this all of the time, and you sometimes end up thinking, well, you should have never married this person in the first place because you may not have shared values or shared interests and things of that nature. But when you're so focused on simply marrying, then you lose sight of what actually matters. And then that ultimately causes all kinds of conflict in the context of a relationship, in a marriage. You have differences of opinion on how you perhaps should raise children or how you should handle money and your finances. And all of these things lead or breed dysfunction within the relationship and ultimately cause someone to have to call me. And and I've seen that an awful lot with online relationships that arise from online dating. And online dating can also yield a host of other issues in the context of marriage and divorce. What I've seen in my experience is that sometimes it's simply too easy these days for people who start dating online to continue dating online, or at least exploring their options online even after they are allegedly committed to someone. And so now with the use of technology where you can access online dating apps on your phone and at your computer at work and things of that nature, both people sometimes don't stop that activity, which then opens up a whole new can of worms in the context of what ultimately causes divorce.
Yeah. Audrey, have you run into that in terms of online dating? How do you see that impacting the relationship side? What do you see in your practice, in your observation? Is Audrey there? Hello, Audrey? I hope we haven't lost her, and Daryl isn't there. She's still on. Well, I tell you what, until we can get Dr. Chapman back, Michelle, Attorney Thomas, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the addictive nature of online dating? I mean, is that always the case, or, I mean, I would imagine it's not always the case.
It may not always be the case, but I think you called it exactly right, that just like Facebook is addictive for some people, online dating websites can be addictive. And, I mean, obviously that goes to the character and the core of who the person is. So if you're inclined to continue exploring your options or shopping for a man or a woman online like you shop for groceries even after you commit to someone, then there are deeper character issues there.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like Audrey was saying, the people that are so fixated and focused on marrying overlook those issues.
I see.
And what I would say to people is, once you do make that commitment and marry, there's almost nothing that is private moving forward in terms of your online activity. So when people come in to discuss possibly separating or divorcing and things of that nature and suspect that their spouse is still maintaining an online profile, we can get those records through the litigation process. So we can actually
do that.
Right.
You said that before.
Yeah. So you can, what we call or consider pre-trial litigation, or before you actually go to trial, you engage in what's called discovery, where you're finding out and requesting documents and the like. So you can actually request from your spouse all of the records that they've used to access different sites online, and if they don't disclose them, which they certainly may not, I would understand why they wouldn't, you can obtain them by subpoenas. So legally,
you can go to the phone
You can
company.
go directly to either the phone companies or Facebook.com or Match.com or any of these other sites and get records directly through the legal process.
I didn't know
and
that.
People don't understand that. They think they can maintain some sort of secretive operation there. But if you hire a good attorney, you can find that.
Hello, Audrey?
Hello?
Yes, now you're back on. I'm sorry. We couldn't hear you before. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I could hear you. I'm not sure what happened. Yeah,
Okay.
I could hear everything you were saying.
Okay. Can you care to comment on what was just said, please?
I'm not sure that I heard all of it, but I mean, I don't see a lot of online dating. I see a little. I mean, a lot of the people meet people that I work with in their church, from going out, from attending concerts. I mean, I see them in a variety of that they have a variety of experiences. But I last summer did a seminar for a church in Washington, and I'm getting ready to do it again. It's called Single and Satisfied. And one of the things that we talk about that's so important for people is that the whole purpose of dating is to figure out whether you're a fit or not, figure out whether you're ready to make a commitment or not. And sometimes people, you're right, are very anxious. Particularly, I find the women are more anxious to get married because of the whole baby thing, that they push marriage whether they're a match with the person or not. And when they do that, I think the things that Michelle described begin to take place. Because you don't really know the person, and you don't know that you're not ready, and you don't know that they're not ready to settle down, and you haven't focused on quality of connection with each other. You're just focused on commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And you discover that you've made a big mistake, but you discover it after you have gone through the legal process of getting married. And I remind people that marriage is a legal contract. And they don't think about it that way either, by the way.
They don't think of it as a contract. It is. It's the biggest contract in your life. It really is. Yeah.
So if they dated, and in the workshop that I did, Single and Satisfied workshop, which I'm going to be doing in March, I'll be doing another one.
Please let us know so we can announce it, okay?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the stages that dating has to go through, and dating has stages. And most people don't allow the stages to take place. And by the way, the entire stage is at least a minimum of 18 months. That's the entire stage. And some people will push this thing, and within 7 months, 6 to 7 months, they've made a commitment. And they think they know the person, and they don't. They're doing it all off of their emotions. They're not doing it off of the practical side of dating. There's a reason for dating. In my day, it was called courting. Same thing.
Yes.
It's to figure out whether you are with the right person or not. And usually it's within the first 3 months after after you settle down and you're no longer flying off the seat of your pants. In other words, you're on cloud nine. You settle down and you get into the next 3 months, somewhere between the meeting, getting to know each other, and building trust, and seeing if you can rely upon the person, you get to commitment. But that is after the 6 months, not before.
Okay. Michelle, you wanted to say something there?
Yeah, I don't think you can emphasize enough the length of time that two people should invest in the relationship before deciding to commit and say, I do. Right. I had one person that actually married about 2 months after meeting online.
Oh, my.
And I don't think you can be surprised that you're ultimately ending up in a divorce lawyer's office because you've, like Audrey said, you've totally eliminated all of the steps of dating. You don't really know the person, and even if you have known them for 18 months, it can still be difficult, and there can still be surprises. So that is one thing that I think leads to divorce more often than not, is rushing into marriage.
The other thing is, if you're meeting somebody and let's say you travel. A lot of people meet on a business trip, on an airplane, or they have another headquarters in Seattle, and they meet somebody out there. So then they start talking to this person and emailing and doing all that stuff, and maybe the person flies out a couple of times to visit, and they think they have a relationship. But you don't have a relationship when you are not spending time with the person, when you are only talking, when you're texting, and there's a lot, and that's the other thing we need to talk about. A lot of people, once they meet, the rest of the relationship is texting. It's not even face to face, in person, human kind of contact, kind of connection, and then they think they know the person. You can't possibly know a person like that.
So you're saying that you have to have that face-to-face, person-to-person time with someone.
I will tell the person. They said, well, we've been talking for about 9 months now. I said, yes, but he lives in New York, and you live in North Carolina. So how many times have you actually sat across from each other and had a personal interaction? Well, maybe only 4 times. Well, that is not...
That's not
you haven't worked through those stages. I mean, there's no way you have. And now you're talking about commitment.
Okay, we've got to take another break. We'll be back in just a moment. This is very exciting. This is good stuff. We'll be right back. You're listening to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. We're going to take a break, and we'll come back and continue the conversation with Dr. Chapman and Attorney Thomas. And we'll welcome your phone calls as well.
Is power. 1450 WOL, where information is power.
Have you considered donating an organ? For retired NBA champion Sean Elliott, a donated kidney changed his life. Hi, I'm Dr. Griffin Rogers, bringing you healthy moments from the NIH. I'm the director of the National Institute of Diabetes, Digestive, and Kidney Diseases. Sean was diagnosed with kidney disease and was eligible for a transplant. He was lucky. His brother gave him a kidney, and 10 years later, Sean and his brother are in great health. But Sean is concerned about others and told us,
well, organ donation is so important in the African-American community because, quite simply, there aren't enough donors. And we have a ton of people that are on the waiting list for organs. We have people that are dying every single day in this country because we have a shortage of organs. You know, people that are on the waiting list for organs. We have people that are dying every single day in this country because we have a shortage of organs. You can have somebody who donates an organ and saves a life, and I don't know if there's anything better than you can do for somebody.
For more information, follow us on Twitter at Healthy Moments. This is Dr. Griffin Rogers with the NIH.
Looking for a one-stop-shop dental care service facility? Advanced Dental Care of Greenbelt, Maryland is the place to go.
Now, I've struggled with my dental health for a while, and I was afraid to seek treatment for my unhealthy teeth until I heard about Advanced Dental Care. They offer cost-effective treatment, making payment convenient and low price. I was comfortable the entire time, and I didn't have to take time off my job. Dr. Jones saved my smile, and I couldn't be any happier. They really cared, and they treated me like family.
Advanced Dental Care offers after-work and Saturday appointments. Their services include braces, same-day implant surgery, and if you're nervous, laughing gas, and sedation. To find out if you are a dental implant candidate, call Dr. Jones at Advanced Dental Care of Greenbelt for a free consultation at 301-474-6392 or visit at dmvsmiles.com.
Wake up in the morning with Keeping Up with the Joneses.
You guys sound pretty good. I'm having my daily coffee.
Where you dictate what we talk about.
What kind of coffee do you drink, Miss Richard?
Well, I love Maxwell House.
Are they going to pay us for that plug?
That's right. Go ahead on this,
Wait, you do cream and sugar or no?
We like our news just the way we like our coffee.
Well, I like mine black. If I put cream in it, it won't let me go to sleep. But I drink it black while I'm still here.
Keeping Up with the Joneses, Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. right here on 1450 WOL.
Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell is sponsored by Equity Resource, a development, construction, and investment firm that is transforming properties throughout the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Our mission is to develop properties at a high level of value, a low risk of investment, while providing impeccable service to our customers. When you're ready to sell, renovate, or invest in a property, choose Equity Resource. Call us today at 202-621-6632 or visit our website, equityresource.net.
News Talk 1450 WOL, Washington, D.C. A Radio 1 station and worldwide at WOLDCnews.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell, and we want you to start calling in now. So if you have some questions about this online dating thing and relationships and legal stuff with relative to them, as well as relationship issues, give us a call at 1-800-450-7876. 1-800-450-7876. We've been listening to Dr. Audrey Chapman and attorney Michelle C. Thomas. They've been talking to us about online dating and the difficulties that a lot of people have with, what are the different issues that we see all the time. So just before the break, we had both Audrey and Michelle talking about some of the things that they have encountered with online dating, the difficulties, the challenges. What kind of advice would the two of you have for people who are, looking, because both of you have said that there have been successful online dating relationships that have been established. Dr. Chapman, you go first. What would you say people who are online, what kind of advice would you have for them? And then Michelle, afterwards, let us know also. What would you say, Audrey? Tell us.
Okay. Well, as the relationship expert and therapist,
yes, that's your.
I advise people who are online, offline, whatever, and also I wanted to mention the book 7 Attitude Adjustments for Finding a Loving Man. That's a book for single people who are trying to navigate the whole single dynamic. But I tell people to take their time if they're online. A lot of people find the smaller online programs work better for them than the big ones. I also tell them to do multiple kinds of dating. So in other words, you might do online. You may also attend meetups, join a meetup or two, because there are many meetups out there, and also look into a private dating service, a matchmaking service. So I suggest that they do all of those instead of just relying on one online group, and that they take their time. I offer them the program that's not my program. It wasn't designed by me. It's called Relationship Attachment Model, RAM, R-A-M, and it suggests that people spend a certain amount of time getting to know each other and then building trust, and we spend a lot of time on inquiring about how they know where there's trust or not, and then rely, and then commit. And then the last part of RAM is touch. And because a lot of times people start with getting to know the person, and it's usually superficial getting to know, and then they move quickly to touching. And they don't work on the middle pieces, which is trust and rely. Those two are really important. Mm-hmm. And then define whether there's a commitment or not. And it's not a commitment if you decide it's a commitment. It's a commitment because the two of you decide that you're at a place where you want to eliminate other people and just see each other.
Okay.
And then I help people to know whether that person has gotten offline, because sometimes people say, okay, let's be exclusive, but they're still online and they're still getting in touch with people. So you've got to be able to figure all of that stuff out as well. You can't just go with what someone tells you. You also have to pay attention to what they do and what they're not doing. And so I help them to navigate all of that.
You've been listening to Dr. Audrey Chapman. She's a world-famous relationship therapist and expert. You can reach her at her office at 202-756-5042. That's 202-756-5042. Her website is audreychapman.com. She's on Twitter at audreychapman13 and on Facebook at The Audrey Chapman Show. She's the author of many books on best-selling relationship books, and so please remember to go look them up and buy them. 7 Attitude Adjustments for Finding a Loving Man, Getting Good Loving, How Black Men and Women Can Make Relationships Work, Man Sharing, Choice or Dilemma, A Radical New Way of Relating to the Men in Your Life, Entitled to Good Loving, and on and on and on. So please, please, many of us know her as a former host of the Audrey Chapman Show for many, many years. So I thank you so much, Audrey, for what is really, really profound advice. I'd like to now ask Attorney Thomas, and let me give out your contact information, too. Her website is Attorney Michelle C. Thomas. Her website is thomaslawdc.com. Her telephone number is 202-536-4841. That's 202-536-4841. She's on Twitter at Michelle, that's 2 L's, Michelle C. Thomas, and on Facebook at Michelle C. Thomas. Michelle, tell us from a legal point of view, or from your point of view, what you've seen coming into your office, what kind of advice do you have for people who are pursuing online dating, and how can they navigate that? What effect have you seen it have on relationships and marriage and so forth like that, please?
Sure. I would like to take this discussion a step further and talk about what happens when the online dating does lead to marriage and then ultimately divorce. I saw a study conducted by the Michigan State University that said that couples who met online are 4 times more likely to divorce than couples who meet in a more traditional way. And so what we have to do is look at, well, why is that? And so what I tell people, and certainly would tell clients, is that you need to conduct your due diligence. Sometimes people are too trusting too early in the online dating relationship context, particularly because there may be less face-to-face interaction and you're not able to judge someone's look in their eyes and be able to tell sort of the sincerity of their heart from the text communications and online chat rooms and things of that nature. And so you really need to conduct your due diligence. Get online. Check to see if their profile has been taken down or not. Don't just take that person's word for it. You should, if you do suspect that the person is still perhaps exploring their options, be direct.
After you've made a commitment.
Correct. After you've made a commitment, be direct. Ask the person point blank, are you or are you not still online and exploring other avenues for dating? Because, again, it's so important for both people to be on the same page. Now, if you do decide to move forward and commit and marry, and you suspect that your partner is still online, there is nothing wrong with taking screenshots if you see their profile online and beginning to gather the evidence and data that you need. I have to talk from a legal mind, from a trial lawyer's perspective. So I think in terms of evidence and fact finding and gathering. And so sometimes when people come in, you ask what I see, people will say, well, this person is still leading a double life. And how do you know this? Well, I saw someone sent me photos, or I saw the profile. The next question I will ask is, well, did you print it out? Or did you save the photos?
So that's what you're
saying
should be done.
You need to think in terms of, at the point that you begin to suspect that activity has not stopped, then you need to take steps. As I've always said on your shows, Ethel, is to be proactive and take steps to protect yourself down the road. And so what we look for ultimately from a legal standpoint is evidence. And then we discuss how that may or may not affect your case, specifically as it relates to property distribution, alimony, things of that nature. But you really need to take the steps and be proactive and do your due diligence. Help yourself, from that perspective, and then bring that in to speak with a competent legal counsel, and then we can help you from there.
That is excellent.
Just something I forgot, Ethel, which is that I suggest to people, if they've met somebody online or offline, for that matter, that if they think it's getting serious, this is when it's important to do couples counseling, to come in, to allow a third party to help them to see whether what they think they have is legitimate, or whether they're still in the infatuation stage and therefore blinded by some of the truths that are right there in front of them. And people have a way of, we call it, it's like false hope. And so people have a way of, it's called defensive hope. They have a way of telling themselves things that exist in a relationship that aren't really there, because they want the relationship to be the relationship. They want it to work out.
Yeah.
So in a sense, they kind of lie to themselves, and that's the other reason they get themselves into big trouble.
I just want to mention also that January 30th,
yes,
Michelle did a program with us, an entire program, where she talked about the ways in which you can be proactive in, one, finding whatever evidence you need and protecting yourself, and in how this evidence is procured and then used in a legal context, both online evidence of cheating, money disappearing, and so on like that, all of it, because she deals with it. So these are hard truths. These are very hard truths, and when you get your emotions involved, it's very hard to face up to it. But as she says, it's better to be proactive. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to divorce, but at least protect yourself.
Not at all, and hopefully you don't divorce. Divorce is sacred, and I've said this before, that it should be your last resort, and I truly believe that. But what it perhaps will do is cause you to have a real conversation, perhaps with the help of a therapist like Audrey, or going to marriage counseling to really get to the truth of what's going on.
Okay. We're going to take one more break, and then we'll be back, and we'll finish up this program getting more advice from Dr. Chapman and from Attorney Thomas. We'll be right back. You're listening to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell.
News Talk 1450 WOL AM, where information is power.
Moving today or tomorrow and not sure who to call? Well, your worries are over. Ted's Moving and Hauling at 301-254-8221 is your one-stop place to call when you need to move from your apartment, home, or office. Ted's Moving and Hauling is one of the best, with experience and professional movers to handle all your needs with no job too large or too small. Ted's can do it all. Call now to find out more. 301-254-8221. That's 301-254-8221. Need something hauled away? Ted can do that too. Ted's Moving and Hauling is one of the best, and with some of the best prices in town. So, if you need to move uptown, Ted can do that too. Ted's Moving and Hauling is one of the best, and with some of the best prices in town. So, if you need to move uptown, downtown, or out of town, call Ted's Moving and Hauling today at 301-254-8221. That's 301-254-8221. That's Ted's Moving and Hauling, moving you from your home, office, or church. Call Ted's today at 301-254-8221.
Bennett Career Institute and Sea Island Systems proudly presents the biannual Celebrity Beauty Weekend. Yes, it's that time again. Calling all D.C. licensed cosmetologists, barbers, estheticians, manicurists, instructors, and managers. Come and get your continued education units at the Celebrity Beauty Weekend. February 28th at the Washington, D.C. Convention Center for all you makeup lovers. We are also bringing back Danessa Maritz for the Celebrity 8-hour hands-on transformation classes. For more information, call us at 202-526-1400, extension 18. We have something for everyone in the beauty industry. Top leaders will come out and train the everyday individual on how to be better at their craft. It's the Bennett Career Institute Celebrity Beauty Weekend at the Washington, D.C. Convention Center, 202-526-1400, extension 18.
News Talk 1450 WOL AM, where information is power.
Welcome back. This is your host, Attorney Ethel Mitchell. We're having a rather hot conversation this morning with Dr. Audrey Chapman and Attorney Michelle Thomas. I see some rather uncomfortable people sitting in the studio right now. I think we've got everybody thinking here. During the break, Michelle said something that I thought would be interesting to explore, and that is, certainly there are a lot of successful relationships, hopefully more successful relationships, that have started with online dating. And certainly there are more successful marriages than there are not, hopefully. But suppose that you were the bad guy. You had been on, was it Madison? What was that, Michelle? Explain to Ashley Madison. Explain what that was, and then, or something like that. How can you? But you want to save your marriage. From a legal point of view, what would you recommend, and what advice would you have?
Right. So first of all, AshleyMadison.com is a website that was designed for married people to meet other married people and engage in extramarital affairs.
Okay, it was designed like that.
That is the purpose of AshleyMadison.com, and from what I understand, there's over like 45 million persons who have registered on AshleyMadison.com.
Oh my God!
And so it's really it's a pervasive problem. So the first thing, if you're the bad guy and you've gotten caught, or you think your spouse may be on to you, run, don't walk to your nearest lawyer and get some legal advice on what to do and how to protect yourself.
I didn't know you were going to say that. Okay.
Because listen.
Yeah.
And so, but seriously, if you are the person who's engaged in that conduct, you might consider coming clean if you were sincere about moving forward in the relationship. If you do have evidence, what we would call text messages, chats, etc., and there has been no litigation that's been suggested or started, you don't have to keep that documentation. But once you get in a posture of litigation, then yes, you should not destroy anything that already exists. But if you're serious,
and you really can't, from what you're saying, even if you throw away the phone and all the rest of it, it can be recovered.
Yes, if you work with the right person, they can serve certain subpoenas and gather the evidence. And so that's one thing. And even looking at cell phone records, people may think, well, the cell phone records don't show the explicit language of the text messages, so therefore, I'm okay. But we can certainly obtain your cell phone records and track the length of calls or frequency of calls between you and your significant other, and then certainly seek to obtain the text messages that
you
that
can
go along
do all
with
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's really something to be careful for, and you should remember that once you're married and you're in a scenario where you may be getting caught, that nothing is really private. And so as hard as people try to cover their tracks, and they do, we can still get to the bottom of it and find the truth. So you really want to tell your lawyer everything. Don't try to hide, because your lawyer can't help you if they don't know the full story.
Okay.
So I always tell clients and parties that all the time, is to really be forthcoming with the one person who will keep it confidential, or should keep it confidential, so that we can help you help yourself.
Okay, I'm going to give out your phone number again in case folks need to call you. It's Attorney Michelle C. Thomas at 536-4841. And one other thing you always said to me was that money leaves trails.
Oh, my goodness. Money leaves a paper trail. We will find the money, and we will find how you spent it.
Okay.
So if you're wining and dining some of your paramours and taking them to Vegas and having wild weekends, we will find you, and you will pay that money back. More often than not, you will have to pay that money back to your spouse. So, money leaves a paper trail, everyone.
Okay.
I'll leave you with that.
All right, all right. Dr. Chapman, tell us, what do you have as kind of final advice for, on a positive note if possible? Because I don't want to leave people thinking it's Valentine's Day, thinking just about the negative, okay? What advice do you have?
Well, I think instead of seeing it as negative, I always remind people that relationships are very complex because people are complex. So, you know, it has its bumps and then it has its smooth ride. So, and that's just kind of how relationships are. And some are obviously more challenging than others. When I see people, when they come into the office, if there's been an affair, whether they're single or married, they are really looking for ways to work through some of the hurt feelings and get the trust back. They're usually not trying to divorce generally. So I'm probably at the beginning of it. And then when they have worked and worked and worked, they end up getting referred to an attorney because it looks like there's going to be a divorce. But I say that I think it's important that people take their time when they're courting and dating and getting to know each other. I think you get what you put out. So you also have to be a good person. In other words, you have to be the person that you're really looking for, that you're looking to marry and fall in love with. Make sure that you have those qualities yourself. Take your time and don't rush the relationship, because I think that's the most important thing. And then when you think you're at a place where it looks like it's going to be commitment, get premarital counseling. I think I advocate premarital counseling, and I think people don't do enough of that. And not just a marriage class. You really need to go and find out who this person is and who you are, and whether you're the fit that you really believe that you are. The seminar that I'm doing, which will be in March, will be listed on my website. So you can always catch up with the kinds of activities that I'm doing in the Washington metropolitan area. And again, that's www.audreychapman.com to find out what's going on and what they can participate in. But I think it's important that people not rely just on their own senses and their own emotions as to whether they have found the right person or not. I think it's also good to get a third party involved so that they can be sure that they're with the right person. And I think you have to trust your gut. So many people don't trust themselves, and that's the other reason I think they get into the trouble they get into. They get vibes, or that they call, or some kind of, intuition kind of kicks in, and then they choose to ignore it because they want to stay connected to the person. And those vibes would lead them to be able to do some of the, I call it forensic searching, the forensic searching that they need to do so that they can figure out whether this person is on the, upper, whether they can trust the person or not, or whether this is something that they need to take caution with.
I see. And Michelle, what would you say to, because both of you are kind of saying the same thing in different languages. Take your time, be mindful, be aware, don't fool yourself, take your time.
And when you get vibes, believe your vibes,
Right, and to sum that up,
always trust your gut.
I would say read the signs. It's one of the biggest problems I see is people who have ignored all of the signs, even though they have been staring them right in the face. And so you do know, usually, instinctively, if something's wrong or if your partner is still engaging in online dating or just not being faithful generally. Typically, your gut will tell you that, but you have ignored all of the signs until you're absolutely at the end and can't ignore them any further, and then you end up going down the path to divorce. And so Read the signs, and then maybe if you do read the signs, then you can be proactive in saving your marriage.
And I want to say, to be fair to the men out there, women cheat also. And I don't know if we've made that really clear,
let's make that real clear
to the listening audience, but because we can make it sound like it's all the men that are doing all the stuff, but there are women that cheat also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Would you, in the program January 30th, Michelle, you gave some specific examples of behavior that might clue you in to something going on. Do you remember?
Yeah, sure. Some signs to look for. So if your spouse's schedule changes, if they start coming home later from work because they have to quote unquote work late that evening, if that begins happening, if money begins moving, so if let's say your spouse was depositing his or her entire paycheck into a joint account, and then suddenly a part of that paycheck is no longer being deposited into that joint account, it's going elsewhere. If there are odd credit card charges that you don't quite recognize, or I've seen on credit cards, because we will examine your credit card statements line by line in the divorce process, where there might be a charge at a hotel, at a local hotel. Well, if you weren't there with your spouse, you're going to have to answer, well, who were you there with, and why were you there? So, changes like that you need to pay attention to. Changes in behavior and mood if someone is suddenly not interested. Or what I've seen very often is if someone goes on a business trip and comes home different than how they were when they left, chances are they may not have been on that business trip alone or without a significant other or a paramour. So those are some of the things that you can look for, I think.
And